Welcome to the Trade Secret Toolkit workshop. Let's start with a story. The story is about a restaurant owner named Raul, who is known for his famous taco recipe. Raul runs a famous and successful restaurant. People come from all over to taste his unique taco. Raul was even negotiating a deal with a multinational food company that wanted to cut a deal and buy a license to exclusively sell and distribute frozen meals based on his recipe. As often happens, one of the restaurant's cooks has decided to quit and opens a new competing restaurant nearby. The new restaurant also serves taco, and it's very similar in taste to Raul's taco. Naturally, Raul becomes very upset and sues his former cook. He claims that his recipe is a trade secret and that it has been stolen. When his potential distributor hears about it, his big potential deal is derailed. In fact, this is a true story, and when it was brought before the court, Raul lost his case against the cook. Why did he lose? He lost because he never bothered to document the recipe or explain to any of his employees just how valuable the recipe was and that they were expected not to use it in any way outside the restaurant. Now, why did I choose this story about a restaurant and not a story about a well-known tech company? I chose it for many reasons. When you think of a small restaurant, you don't immediately think trade secrets or intellectual property. And this story shows that any type of business can own very valuable information, not only small companies or large multinationals. I chose this story because it shows that trade secrets can be any type of valuable information, as long as they're documented and protected. And this story also shows that companies just do not do enough to protect their valuable information, even when it's clear that they provide an advantage. It also shows that when it comes to trade secrets, the biggest risk comes from the closest people who have access to the trade secrets, usually employees and contractors. But most importantly, I chose this example of a taco recipe because it is easier to understand the value of a simple taco recipe created by an experienced chef than it is to understand the value of an algorithm or a process behind a software product developed by domain experts. A taco recipe seems more tangible and it's easier to understand. Anyone can taste the taco and see that it's delicious and that the recipe can be easily copied and shared without the owner's permission. On the other hand, algorithms and software development processes are typically much less tangible and can be difficult for non-experts to understand. And finally, I chose this story because it is much easier to see the critical need to protect an asset as simple as a taco recipe when preparing for a large deal to distribute frozen meals based on that recipe than it is to see the critical need to protect the rights behind a software when preparing for an exit. But like Raul with his recipe, technology companies invest significant time and resources developing their products, and their success, including their exit strategy, often depends on the protection of their trade secrets. A software company's algorithms, source code, and development process can provide significant value and a competitive advantage, making them critical to protect when preparing for an M&A or negotiating a business deal. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Ilanit Appelfeld, and I help companies create value out of the expertise they bring to the market. I also teach them how to present what they have to investors and increase their IP value. I've spent many years working with technology companies, helping them to both explain their assets to the world and protect their intellectual property. In short, I help them prepare their assets for their exit. I've also spent a good deal of time working with investors who examine companies, and the result of all this is that I've realized there is a gap between the value tech companies actually generate and the way in which they present it. What I noticed is that while some people are able to communicate what their assets are and secure funding for their companies, most companies struggle to communicate what their assets are and the future value that they're likely to bring into the market. This led me to research the topic of what creates value. Then work with investors and managers to create a process which helps companies increase the value generated by what they own. My goal with this workshop is to take those same ideas and over the course of the following 3 sessions, show you how to generate more value for your company. The information and methods you'll hear about have been tested in pre-seed rounds, seed rounds, A rounds, B rounds, and M&As. We've been at the negotiation table and we know what an investment-ready company is expected to look like. This is what I want to share with you. At the end of this process, you should discover that you become more comfortable and more confident when talking about your assets with investors, employees, and partners. Here's what our agenda looks like. In session 1, I'm going to show you how to look at your company and your assets. You'll see how to identify the most valuable assets in your business, which is sometimes something that is difficult to see, and how to create value for your investors. Then in session 2, I will have a private call with each of you to make sure that you're not getting stuck when it comes to the job of identifying your assets. Then in session 3, when you know what your assets are, we're going to give you the mechanism to protect your assets. And then finally, when you have the whole picture, we'll give you a new perspective on how you can present your assets to investors and capitalize on our experience with what it is investors want to see. So let's dive in.